Good morning. Whoo! Man. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We got Derek Anderson. We got Herbie. We got Nerd. Oh, man. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, my friends. Good morning, Joe. Good morning to the exception. Oh, man. Good morning. Good morning, Marmars. Good morning, everybody. Oh, sorry, am I late? I don't think I'm late. I think we're on time. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Gotta give people a chance to sign in, click in, do whatever they gotta come in, go in. Good morning. We got Pacers. Pacers. We got you signed up and on the way today. Check your mail in a couple days. We got morning, Deborah. Good morning to Laura. Good morning. Good morning to T Crew. I am B with you. I don't know. I talk. It's been a hell of a weekend. Good morning, Pacers. Got you, my friend. Got you. It's on the way, my friend. It's on the way. Pacers got a book from us, I think. There might be some other stuff in there. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's between you and the big guy, I think. Good morning. Good morning, nerd. How's everybody? What a heck of a weekend. Been a long weekend. Long. All right. So, I don't like to kill animals. I don't. I think the older I've gotten, the more I realize that, like, the animals are just doing animal stuff. You know? Like, we're doing animal stuff and you're doing animal stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I think, the fact that I've been out in here in the Mush Lounge for a little over a year now, and I hang out with little animals like, maybe not ants. I don't like ants. I'll get rid of ants. I'll kill ants. No problem. I got no problem. Maybe not like one ant. Like if one ant's just running around, just doing this little ant thing, and you're like, oh, wow, all right, what's that little ant doing? But if there's a whole gang of them, so I'm stomping. I'm putting them down. I'm out. You're out. I'm out. Like I either that or I walk away from wherever that whole gang is. I've got out here to the side of the garage, the Mush Lounge. If you move one of the wood things that I put down, a whole gang of ants just pops up, and you're like, whoa, all right, I shouldn't have moved that. You guys, it's where you live here now. All right, neat. But I went into the back room the other day and I moved the thing, and a whole gang of them was there, and I was like, you know what, Stomp, you don't live here. And I was like, I live here. All right. So keeping that in mind, I can't watch Fear Factor anymore. Or at least not the parts where they're like, you should eat that spider and we'll give you $1,000. Like, come on, man. That bug is just doing a bug thing. It's just being a bug. Like, there's a gang of bugs. Millions of these little things, little creatures running around, right? But I also understand that, like, that's a living thing. That is a thing bent on reproduction and survival. And we're eating them, maybe. We're halfway in it. We're giving up on eating competitions. Like, if I eat one worm and you're asking me to eat 20, and I eat one, I'm going to need to eat 19 more. Okay? Because if I ate that first one, what am I doing? Like, for a joke? For a competition, and I'm not willing to eat 19 more? Why the hell did I eat that first one? Right? So, competitive-wise. Blah, 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 all to say. It's getting colder. It'll be late. It'll be high set. It'll be a warm week still this week, but it's getting colder. And Friday, it was getting cooler. And we had a little visitor in the house, in the Mush Lounge. We had a mouse. Typically, I'm okay with mice and little creatures because I'm like, all right, you're a little creature, I like watching little squirrels run around. you know, and they hide the nuts, and they eat the nuts, and they get chased by the dog, and the dog, you know, rough, you know, and they walk by the garage, or mush lamp, whatever you want to call it, and they look at me, and I look at them. I go out. They don't run away from me very as fast as they run away from Ruff. Whenever I catch them on the fence, they don't care. They're like, "Oh, it's you, it's me." I love the little squirrels, right? Little rodents, maybe not so much. Maybe not so much. There's been a night or two where I would look and there's a little mouse that's like pop his head up. And I'm like, what the hell? And I chase him out to the garage. So Friday, what the hell? It's like 1:30 in the morning. And scurry. Oh no, I think I trapped one. Because all year, I've been trying to like find the mouse holes in the garage. Like I fixed the door, the back door kinda, because the mice are coming in through the door holes. And then I found like another hole or two in the back, and I fixed that. And so I got it pretty much sealed off, right? So I find the little, and I want to get him out of here. And so I get him out of this room. And I finally chase him into the other room. I'm like, all right, cool, no problem. I'll take care of him in the morning. I know there's like one hole. There's one hole that if he gets out of that hole, he can't come back in through the hole. But hopefully I can get him into, or whatever, right? Just get him out of there. I know where he is. At least it's not crawling over me, right? Let me show you. You see those two holes right there? It's in the ceiling. This is a false ceiling. This is put in when we put the mush lounge in, and those are supports for the garage door that go to the actual ceiling. And so we had to put in the ceiling around the supports. You know what those holes are big enough also for? A mouse. So I heard him scurrying in the back room. Scurry. Like, I'll deal with them in the morning, no problem. I'll open the door. Let them out in the back. I'll go find them, I'll flush them out, no big deal. Scurry. Nice. Someone said they got their hat. Nice. Morning Mike by a Barabelle. And then I heard the mouse scurry up the walls. And I'm like, okay, no problem. It's the walls. I mean, you know, they're hollow. They're probably, like, I remember putting in the wall. It's not a big deal. A couple minutes later, I see a head pop out of that hole. I'm like, oh, no. What happened? What did I do? So the head pokes out of that hole. And then it pokes out of that hole over there. And then it pokes out of that hole right there. Oh, and then he came up onto the bar. I knocked him down. I grabbed my broom. I broke my broom trying to knock him down. I did not try and necessarily kill the rat or the mouse. I don't want to kill these things, right? I don't. But I understand things now. So I knocked the mouse down, and then the mouse was like, I didn't kill him. He went and he hid in some clothing. I tried to get him out of the clothing. He ran out of the clothing. He went back. Scurried into the couch. Got him out of the couch. Then he scurried over into the corner there. Right there. And I trapped him. And I caught him between two of the art pieces. Like, that top art piece and the one right below it. I trapped him. And I put a little cover over both of those things. And I took him outside, and I can hear him like, hey! Because I was like pushing, like squeezing him, like, you know, just to make sure he's like, hey! And I'm like, I'm trying not to kill you, guy. I'm trying not to. Oh, hey! I'm like, I'm sorry, guy. And like, hey! So I take him outside. By this time, it's like 4 in the morning. It's been a long time dealing with this damn mouse. Just like listening to him, waiting for him, trying to catch him, scary, and he's like, ah! I'm like, ah! He's like, ah! I take him outside. You're gone. So he's gone. I didn't kill the damn thing. It was really funny because, like, we have a table outside, and I put the paintings up on the table, and good morning, Cleany, and I lifted up the painting, and I could see him like jump off the table, like in a flying, like I'm out of here motion, like like the flying squirrel kind of motion. It was really funny, but I bought mouse traps because I realized. No, he did not, Derek Anderson. He did not. I made sure. The table was outside of the door, and he ran, and I made him run to the house. So, Pops has to deal with the mouse, not me. All right, Pops and Ruff. Ruff can go hunt himself a mouse. All right, I released him. Here, you go to the house, not to the. Stay away from where I'm sleeping. I made sure of that. I get out of here, you friggin' dude. So, no, I made sure. Because when I found him in the clothing, like, I actually had him trapped once. And I, like an idiot, was like, well, what I'll do is I'll just open the clothing by the door. And then he'll run immediately out the door. It's a big garage door. That's all he has to do, just run out the... Why did he run back into the garage? Because I opened the clothing to get him out of the clothing in the garage. That's why. Like, you're an idiot. So like an hour and a half later, after finally catching him, I was like, all right, learn that lesson real quick. So, anyhow, I was like, you know what? I think I need to buy traps. And the thinking is, I'm asleep, and I don't want to deal with a mouse running on top of me. Whether or not he's gonna, get caught by a live trap or not, I know it. If I hear, I know what the snap of a trap sounds like. And the thing that like plays with my head though is when I was a kid, my mom would get mice, and then she would trap them, and then the ones that weren't like immediately incapacitated, she would try and heal them back to life. Like, what are you doing, Mom? And so there we are. They were both dealing with the trauma of like a trapped, dying mouse. I don't want to deal with that. So I know that if I hear the snap, I gotta wait like an hour. That's all. I gotta wait an hour. He's just like, all right. So. No, nerd. I tell you, my mom, I love her. God bless her. Like we had a lot of animals when I was a kid. Like she worked at the pet store at one time. We had rats. We had mice. I don't think we had mice, but we definitely had rats. Oh my God, we had at least 20, 30 rats at one point. That was cray. A lot of babies. And then because one of the male rats decided he wanted to have himself a bad day. We went from about 20 to 30 rats to 3 rats. That was a rough day. So, don't forget to hit the like button, by the way. I don't know if I ever say hit the like button or to subscribe. There it says I had a pet mouse. I've had a pet hamster. I remember as a kid, did you ever like go to a school where the school counselor had like a gerbil or a hamster, and you could take the hamster home, or you could adopt the hamster for a day. It was a way to like get you to. Mike Barable said he had pet rats. It was a way to get you to like you could like take care of an animal. You could unfocus from yourself. And then you can focus on, another living creature. You could learn how to take care of something, or like, and it helps you build up your own little, like, thought process of yourself. Because, hey, I took care of an animal, for a day or two. And you can bring it back, and now you're part of the clique, because you took care of, the hamster. Well, I took the hamster home, and a beautiful hamster, brown, white stripe, a little tan, nice, the usual gerbil hamster type thing. And so I took him home, beautiful. Ran out, lost him, ran away from me, from the cage, as I was trying to play with him, and he's gone. Oh no, Mom, I lost the hamster from school. We have to go get a new one. What? Okay. So we go get a new hamster. I want that one. That's the one that looks like the hamster. That's it. That's the one. So we go and we get the hamster and we bring it home. And my mom's like, "Are you sure this looks like the hamster from school?" Yeah, I'm absolutely sure this is the same hamster from school. This is absolutely the same hamster. Is that a hamster that just ran across the floor? Yeah, I think that's the one from school. That one doesn't look anything like the one we just bought from the store. Why is the one from the store all golden? It's all golden. It was a golden little fluff ball. It looked nothing like the one from school. I almost took an imposter back to school and was going to be like, "Hey, here's your hamster back. Thank you." I almost did that as a kid. Thankfully we found the little guy was like hiding under the fridge, and so we got the little guy back into the hamster cage, and I took the real one back to school. But I came home, and now I got a hamster. I got a pet hamster that I wasn't ready for. Named him Golden, because he was golden. Golden the hamster. What a horrible little creature. Golden the hamster. Look, it was either I either tell stories about hamsters or we're singing songs from Rent this morning. It's up to you guys. That's what we're at. That's where we're at. It's what I got for you. Golden. That's that's what I got for you. So, what else do I have for you? Because we got a big day. We got a big day ahead of us. It's either. Do you want to? Let's do. I kind of want to just jump into the book. I love this book. I like where we're at. Hamsters are awesome. Hamsters will bite though. But I for a while there I was just like, I gotta have a hamster. No matter what, I have to have a hamster. So Golden passed. Guy never don't. He wouldn't let you hold him. Like he'd be like, "Hey, what is this? A hand? I gotta bite that." Like no matter what, and like no matter who, it's like I gotta bite that hand. And so like we could never hold the damn thing. Aren't we all just digging the book a little bit, Cleany? I like this book a lot. So then I went from Golden to Abby the hamster. Abby and I, Abby was great. MySpace became a thing, and so I was like sharing things about me and Abby, and Abby was great. And then Abby passed, and then Bounce happened, and Bounce was my last one. So I've only had 3 hamsters, but like Bounce was cute. You can probably surmise why I called him Bounce. So, and then I had a 4th hamster for like a day, and that was tragic. I don't know what the hell happened, but that was bad. I don't know what happened. It was just like, a day, and not so much. Okay. So, that was the 4th, I don't really talk about. I don't know what happened. So, the 4th one, sorry, guy. Bounce passed, and I don't think I cleaned the area well enough, and the 4th one was like, oh, Bounce was here, and then he bailed out, too. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like my home at that point became like the home that Toots, not Toots, what's his name, from Shawshank, when he was finally released from the Shawshank, and he's like, Toots was here, and then he hung himself. Darkness all around for this show. I just started it off with a Shawshank joke reference, so that's darkness all around. What a way to get into Nietzsche, huh? How about that? How about we just get in the let's. All right, let me calm down. Let's calm down real quick. Let's calm down. Let me show you some of the art that I've done. What Kim, we'll say affectionately, calls napalm, napalm delights. 1 second here. We've got little geode number 1. Little geode action. That's a penguin. A penguin came from the Monopoly set. So it's a little geode number 1. Geode number 2. Also from a Monopoly set. It's geode number 2. A little ducky. And my favorite one. Little raccoon geode that I made. I made these after accidentally making, so that's my little raccoon. All of these little pieces came from I figured, Pop's already broke both of the Monopoly sets, and so I was like, well, since we're never playing these again, we'll just go get the figurines out of there. And so that's why, I figured we're never, if we wanted to, we could like use butterscotch pieces or something, to represent whatever missing pieces there are in the game. So, and then back to Oyster Station. But what I've been doing is with all the weird painting and stuff that I do, I create little paint water or whatever, and so I take like a drop of it and I put it in this little pond I made. There we go. Or little pond area, and so it just kind of sits there and I let it dry. And so I put like a drop or two of new paint in there every day or so. I haven't done anything for the last few days because I kind of like where it's at now. But yeah, I just kind of like 1 or 2 little droplets of paint in there, let it dry out, and it becomes what it does. So I kind of like that. So that's a little bit of like showing myself off a little bit there, and I appreciate you letting me do that, guys. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys. Do you wanna die to listen to me whine about nothing and everything all at once? I am one of those. We are gonna get into the next section of philosophy. For the last, up until 1900, the death of Nietzsche is when. So that'll be like the beginning of this next section of the modern world. We got 2 sections left. We got modern world and then contemporary. Is that right? Modern. Let's get to contemporary. So so this next section will delve into around 1890 to about 1950. And remember, up until this, for the last 100 years, the Germans and the Brits have figured out that there is no God, and if there is a God, it plays no role in anything whatsoever, it's all about the individual, and life is struggle, and there's nothing to live for. And what else? We're nothing but cogs in a machine, you know? Like, holy crap. Like, we're in a dark time. We're in a dark time. We're really struggling with, like, with who we are and where we're at. So let me read what the book says leads up to where we start. And then let's talk. Because we got a big section. Nietzsche, let's just drop into it, you know? We'll just drop into it and we'll strap in and we'll see how far we get before we give up. Or if we don't, all right? So let me read this and we'll get right into it. So, thanks for showing up. Thanks for having fun. I had a lot of other stuff planned, and I feel like we didn't do much, but it's already 25 minutes into the show, folks. Gosh, time flies. All right. Towards the end of the 19th century, philosophy once again reached a turning point. What I probably should have done is I should have read this on my own and then like summarized it, and then instead of reading like a summary all right, here we go. Science, and particularly Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, had thrown into doubt the idea of the universe as God's creation. Seriously, you may be struggling with the idea that the church is just a building. Like, what do you mean? Like, if you live 100 miles away from a church, you live where you're at. You don't live 100 miles away from a church. No, you live where you are. Like, that's where we're at with our brains, and we're realizing this, and it's, ugh. With humankind as the peak of the creative genius of God, of course, moral and political philosophy had become entirely human-centered, with Karl Marx declaring religion the opiate of the people. Following in the footsteps of Arthur Schopenhauer, Friedrich Nietzsche, it's either Nietzsche, Nickelback, whatever you want to call him, all right? We're going to go with Nietzsche. I might throw in a little Nietzsche there, and if I say Nickelback, I'm sorry. Friedrich Nickelback believed that Western philosophy, with its roots in Greek and Judeo-Christian traditions, was ill-equipped to explain this modern worldview. The Bible was written 2,000 years ago, y'all. He proposed a radical new approach to finding meaning in life, one that involved casting aside old values and traditions. In doing so, he set the agenda for much of the philosophy of the 20th century. All right, killer. A new analytical tradition. To some extent, the traditional concerns of philosophy, such as asking what exists, were answered by science in the early 20th century. Albert Einstein's theories offered a more detailed explanation of the nature of the universe, and Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theories gave people a radically new insight into the workings of the mind. As a result, philosophers turned their attention to questions of moral and political philosophy, or, since philosophy had become the province of professional academics, to the more abstract business of logic and linguistic analysis. So, we had already proven that we exist. No, we're here, bitches! Yay! Now it's like, why did we say bitches? What do we mean by we? At the vanguard of this movement of logical analysis, which became known as analytical philosophy, was the work of Gottlieb Frege. You just know him as Gottlieb. It's not even Gottlieb, it's Gottlob. I gotta read the book. Gottlob Frege, who linked the philosophical process of logic with mathematics. You heard me talk about taking logic class. And as much as I hated that class, it was all math and algebra. I hated it. Hated it. It's kind of how we work. His ideas were enthusiastically received by a British philosopher and mathematician, Bertrand Russell. Russell applied the principles of logic that Frege had outlined to a thorough analysis of mathematics in the Principia Mathematica, which he wrote with Alfred North Whitehead. And then, in a move that revolutionized philosophical thinking, he applied the same principles to language. Why did we say bitches? The process of linguistic analysis was to become the major theme in 20th century British philosophy. One of Russell's pupils, Ludwig Wittgenstein, developed Russell's work on logic and language, but also made key contributions in areas as diverse as perception, ethics, and aesthetics, becoming one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century. Another, slightly younger Viennese philosopher, Karl Popper, took his cue from Einstein and strengthened the link between scientific thinking and philosophy. Boy, we're heading into a really interesting and neat time of philosophy. We're trying to, instead of worrying about if a tree falls, does it make a sound if we're not there to hear it? Instead of thinking out of that crap out, we're meanwhile in Germany, philosophers rose to the challenge posed by Nietzsche's ideas with a philosophy based on the experience of the individual in a godless universe. Existentialism. Edmund Husserl's phenomenology, or the study of experience, laid the groundwork, and this was carried forward by Martin Heidegger, who was also greatly influenced by the Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard. Heidegger's work, produced in the 20s and 30s, was largely rejected in the mid-20th century due to his connections with the Nazi Party during World War II, but his works were key to the development of existentialism and were important to late 20th century culture. Wars and revolutions. Philosophy was as affected by the massive political upheavals of the 20th century as any other cultural activity, but it also contributed to the ideas, or the ideologies, that shaped the modern world. The revolution that formed the Soviet Union in the 1920s had its roots in Marxism, a 19th century political philosophy. So we're going to learn about the things that are forming us today. This theory became more prevalent globally than in any single religion, dominating the policy of China's Communist Party until around 1982, and replacing traditional philosophies across Asia. Liberal democracies in Europe during the 1930s were threatened by fascism, forcing many thinkers to flee from the continent to Britain and the US. Philosophers turned their attention to left-wing or liberal politics in reaction to the oppression they experienced under totalitarian regimes. World War II and the Cold War that followed it colored the moral philosophy of the second half of the 20th century. In France, existentialism was made fashionable by Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, and Albert Camus, who were all novelists. This trend was in keeping with the French view of philosophy as part of an essential literary culture. It was also fundamental to the direction that continental philosophy was to take in the last decades of the 20th century. Boy, I'm excited about what we're about to get into here. So let's just dive Just take a drink, smoke it out if you want to. Just take a break, take a minute. Because we're about to jump into a big one here. Well, big. Friedrich Nietzsche. Actually, before we do this, I'm interested to see what you guys know of Nietzsche. If I bring up Nietzsche, Cleany, Derek, whoever, Kim, if I say the word Nietzsche, what do you think? What's your immediate, like, uh-oh, or, oh yeah? What's your immediate, like, what are you thinking? Do you have a response? Do you, or is it like, I mean, I hear about Nietzsche, I suppose. I don't know. I think I watched Jeopardy one time. Wasn't that an answer? Like, or do you have like a response at all? God is dead. Clean Growth says God is dead. That's his response. Maybe, alright. God, I mean, that is kind of like one of the bigger things that Nietzsche probably said. Just philosophically, Kim says something about a beast and the abyss. CCS, I think the quote is, you stare long enough into the abyss and you'll become it. And I don't know if that came out of, I think that was, I think that was it. Alright. So we kind of know a little bit about Nietzsche. We heard him. He's kind of in the zeitgeist of everything. Edward Nietzsche. You're funny, Derek Anderson. I saw that before you could get rid of it. Friedrich Nietzsche. Edward Nietzsche. You're funny. Pacer says, I'm walking around cleaning and he's just listening. Perfect, Pacers, because I'm going to be talking for the next 40 minutes and not looking at it, so you could have fun. Now the game is on Herbie and Derek, and they'll clear you out if they. I'm kidding. I don't care. Let's just get into it. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me and learning some philosophy with me and you guys and blah blah blah. Read the. Nietzsche's idea, what's his, we didn't even read the, man is something to be surpassed. Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche's idea that man is something to be surpassed appears in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, perhaps his most famous book. It was written in I think I read most of it in my pretentious high school, college years. It was written in 3 parts in 1883 to 1884, with a 4th part added in 1885. The German philosopher used it to launch a sustained attack on the history of Western thought. He targets 3 linked ideas in particular. First, the idea we have of man, or human nature. Second, the idea we have of God. And third, the ideas we have about morality, or ethics. Elsewhere, Nietzsche writes about philosophizing with a hammer. And here, he certainly attempts to shatter many of the most cherished views of the Western philosophical tradition, especially in relation to these 3 things. He does so in a style that is astonishingly hot-headed and fevered, so that at times the book seems closer to prophecy than philosophy. It was written quickly, with part 1 taking him only a few days to set down on paper. Even so, while Nietzsche's book does not have the calm, analytical tone that people have perhaps come to expect of philosophical works, the author still succeeds in setting out a remarkably consistent and hugely challenging vision. So basically, Nietzsche is like the Jack Kerouac of German philosophy. Free form, it doesn't make any sense, but it's the best thing ever written. Zarathustra descends. The name of Nietzsche's prophet, Zarathustra, is an alternative name for the ancient Persian prophet Zoroaster. The book begins by telling us that at the age of 30, Zarathustra goes to live in the mountains. For 10 years, he delights in the solitude, but one dawn, he wakes to find that he is weary of the wisdom he has accumulated alone on the mountain. So, he decides to descend to the marketplace to share this wisdom with the rest of humankind. He's hanging out, bored. I'm gonna go hang out with dudes. I'm gonna go see what men and women are all about. I haven't been in public for 10 years. On the way down to the town, at the foot of the hill, he meets with an old hermit. The two men have already met 10 years before, when Zarathustra first ascended the mountain. The hermit sees that Zarathustra has changed during the past decade when he climbed the mountain. The hermit says, Zarathustra carried ashes, but now, as he descends, he is carrying fire. Then the hermit asked Zarathustra a question. Why are you going to the trouble of sharing your wisdom? He advises Zarathustra to stay in the mountains, warning him that nobody will understand his message. Zarathustra then asks a question. What does the hermit do in the mountains? The hermit replies that he sings, weeps, laughs, mumbles, and praises God. On hearing this, Zarathustra himself laughs. Then he wishes the hermit well and continues on his way down the mountain. As he goes, Zarathustra says to himself, how can it be possible? This old hermit has not yet heard that God is dead. Behold, the Superman. The idea of the death of God may be the most famous of all Nietzsche's ideas, and it is closely related both to the idea that man is something to be surpassed and to Nietzsche's distinctive understanding of morality. The relationship between these things becomes clear as the story of Zarathustra continues. When he reaches the town, Zarathustra sees that there is a crowd gathered around a tightrope walker who is about to perform, and he joins them. Before the acrobat has a chance to walk across his rope, Zarathustra stands up. It is at this point that he says, behold, I teach you the Superman. He continues by telling the crowd the real point he wishes to convey. Man is something to be surpassed. Zarathustra follows this with a long speech, but when he gets to the end, the crowd only laughs, imagining that the prophet is, turn the page, just another showman, or perhaps even a warm-up performer for the tightrope walker. Yeah, okay, guy. Pipe down. We're gonna watch this guy walk across a rope real quick. Hold on, guy. Hold on. What do you got to say? Okay. In opening his book in this unusual way, Nietzsche seems to be betraying his own unease with the reception that his philosophy will receive, as if he is afraid that he will be seen as a philosophical showman without anything real to say. If we want to avoid making the same mistake as the crowd gathered around Zarathustra and actually understand what Nietzsche is saying, it is necessary to explore some of Nietzsche's core beliefs. Overturning old values. Nietzsche believes that certain concepts have become inextricably entangled. Humankind, morality, and God. When his character, Zarathustra, says that God is dead, he is not simply launching an attack upon religion, but doing something much bolder. God, here, does not only mean the God that philosophers talk about or that religions pray to, it means the sum total of the higher values that we might hold. If there is a God, what the fuck is Zarathustra saying? You know? There is? Really? There's a God? That's Nietzsche. What do you mean? In this world? How can there be? What? The so-called death of the so-called higher values that we've inherited. What do you mean? If there was a God, it'd be a lot better than it is now, isn't it? Wouldn't it? I don't know. One of the central purposes of Nietzsche's philosophy is what he calls the revaluation of all values. An attempt to call into question all of the ways that we are accustomed to thinking about ethics and the meanings and purposes of life. Heavy shit. Nietzsche repeatedly maintains that in doing so, he is setting out on a philosophy of cheerfulness, which, although it overturns everything we have thought up until now about good and evil, nevertheless seeks to affirm life. He claims that many of the things that we think are good are, in fact, ways of limiting or of turning away from life. We may think it is not good to make a fool of ourselves in public, and so resist the urge to dance joyfully in the street. If I gave a shit about what you guys thought about me, I wouldn't be here. But here I am, surpassing any of my fears. Thank God for YouTube. Thank God for a book I can read. We may believe that the desires of the flesh are sinful, and so punish ourselves when they arise. We may stay in mind-numbing jobs, not because we need to, but because we feel it is our duty to do so. Nietzsche wants to put an end to such life-denying philosophies, so that humankind can see itself in a different way. Blaspheming against life. After Zarathustra proclaims the coming of the Superman, he swiftly moves to condemn religion. In the past, he says, the greatest blasphemy was to blaspheme against God. But now, the greatest blasphemy is to blaspheme against life itself. This is the error that Zarathustra believes he made upon the hillside. In turning away from the world and in offering up prayers to a God who is not there, he was sinning against life. Missing the point. Go. Live. there's a movie about the end of the world. I don't remember what it's called. It's like a Dutch movie or something. Maybe, but it's got it's this couple. Man, I feel like an asshole not knowing the name of this movie, but I think it's got Brie Larson in it. I might be wrong, but it's this couple. They're on vacation in like Iceland or wherever, and they wake up. There's a big flash, and the entire world is gone. No one exists. Everyone's gone. Not even dead necessarily. Just everybody's gone except for these two people, and so for the next week or so, maybe even I don't know how exactly long they give. Beautiful movie. They're milling about. They're doing their own thing, trying to like figure out like why are they still here and it's a great movie. And they come upon this old man. Like finally they found another guy, and the guy goes, look, if there is a God, it's just like he just like wants to go live now. Like it's just go live. So I wish I could remember what the title of it. Relatively new, like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. So it's I don't know it's I still can't think of the movie. Anyhow, I really like the concept that like that comes out of existentialism, and very human centered. Like if they're just live as if. All right, here we go. The history behind this death of God, or loss of faith in our higher values, is told in Nietzsche's essay, How the Real World at Last Became a Myth, which was published in Twilight of the Idols. I've also read that. The essay carries the subtitle, History of an Error, and it is an extraordinarily condensed one-page history of Western philosophy. The story, Nietzsche says, the story begins, Nietzsche says, with the Greek philosopher Plato. Plato divided the world into an apparent world that appears to us through our senses, and a real world that we can grasp through the intellect. For Plato, the world we perceive through the senses is not real because it is changeable and subject to decay. Real in quotation marks. Plato suggests that there is also an unchanging, permanent, real world that can be attained with the help of the intellect. So everything is based on everything, and you can know what the true basis of things that are based on if you really think about it hard enough. It's the whole shadow thing. I don't want to get back into Plato. All right. The idea comes from Plato's study of mathematics. The form or idea of a triangle, for example, is eternal and can be grasped by the intellect. We know that a triangle is a three-sided, two-dimensional figure whose angles add up to 180 degrees, and that this will always be true whether anyone is thinking about it or not, and however many triangles exist in the world. On the other hand, the triangular things that do exist in the world, such as sandwiches, pyramids, and triangular shapes drawn on a chalkboard, are triangular only insofar as they are reflections of this idea or form of the triangle. Influenced by mathematics in this way, Plato proposed that the intellect can gain access to a whole world of ideal forms, which is permanent and unchanging, whereas the senses have access only to the world of appearances. So, for example, if we want to know about goodness, we need to learn and we need to have an intellectual appreciation of the form of goodness, of which the various examples of goodness in the world are only reflections. This is an idea that has had far-reaching consequences for our understanding of the world, not least because, as Nietzsche points out, this way of dividing up the world makes the real world of the intellect the place where everything of value resides. In contrast, it makes the apparent world of the senses a world that is, relatively speaking, unimportant. Christian values. Nietzsche traces the fortunes of this tendency to split the world into two, and finds that the same idea appears within Christian thought. In place of the real world of Plato's forms, Christianity substitutes an alternative real world, a future world of heaven that is promised to the virtuous. Nietzsche believes that Christianity views the world we live in now as something less real than heaven, but in this version of the two worlds idea, the real world is attainable, albeit after death, and on condition that we follow Christian rules in this life. The present world is devalued, as it is with Plato, except insofar as it acts as a stepping stone to the world beyond. Nietzsche claims that Christianity asks us to deny the present life in favor of the promise of a life to come. Both the Platonic and Christian views of the idea that the world is divided into a real and an apparent one have profoundly affected our thoughts about ourselves. The suggestion that, turn the page, everything of value in the world is somehow beyond the reach of this world leads to a way of thinking that is fundamentally life denying. Think about it. At this particular point, you got the Catholic Church coming in and Christianity, like you got Lutheranism, and you got the like original sin, and like the concept of original sin is like man's broken before he was even formed. You know, sorry about that, Adam. Thanks, guy. You know, so like nothing is easy in Christianity. You know, like we're all screwed. Like if you at this particular baptism is huge. If you haven't been baptized at this point in religion or at this point in history, you're godless. You're heathen. Baptisms were massively they're spectacles at this point. Going down to the river. You know, like huge spectacles of religiosity at this particular point in our histories. I'm gonna take another drink here. Save my spot. So consider, like we've at this point in our human religion and human history, we've had revolutions upon revolutions. And this isn't just like philosophical revolutions, and this isn't we've had like religious revolutions too. We've had the Reformation, we've had the Protestant Reformation, we've had at this particular the beginning of the American idea We also coincided with a slight rebirth of religion at that point, too. And I think around this time, we're dealing with supernaturalism. And we're dealing with, like, metaphysics is popping into play. So, so the church is still looming large. Like, you still got your teetotalers, and you've got your change the church people. You still got, church is still big at this point in human history. So this is ballsy what Nietzsche is saying. As a result of this Platonic and Christian heritage, we have come to see the world we live in as a world that we should resent and disdain. A world from which we should turn away, transcend, and certainly not enjoy. But in doing so, we have turned away from life itself, in favor of a myth or an invention, an imagined real world that is situated elsewhere. Nietzsche calls priests of all religions preachers of death, because their teachings encourage us to turn from this world and from life to death. But why does Nietzsche insist that God is dead? To answer this, we must look to the work of the 18th century German philosopher Immanuel Kant, whose ideas are critical to understanding the philosophy behind Nietzsche's work. I really like this book. We're going to finish this section, so hold on to your horses, folks. We got 20 minutes left. A world beyond reach. Kant was interested in the limits of knowledge. In his book, Critique of Pure Reason, he argued that we cannot know the world as it is in itself. We cannot attain it with the intellect, as Plato believed, nor is it promised to us after death, as in the Christian view. It exists, we assume, but it is forever out of reach. The reasons that Kant uses to come up with this conclusion are complex. But what is important from Nietzsche's point of view is that if the real world is said to be absolutely unattainable, even to the wise or the virtuous, in this world or the next, then it is an idea grown useless or superfluous. As a result, it is an idea that we need to do away with. If God is dead, Nietzsche is perhaps the person who stumbles across the corpse. Nevertheless, it is Kant whose fingerprints are all over the murder weapon. Philosophy's longest error. Once we have dispensed with the idea of the real world, the long-held distinction between the real world and the apparent world begins to break down. In How the Real World at Last Became a Myth, Nietzsche goes on to explain as follows. We have abolished the real world. What world is left? The apparent world, perhaps? But no! With the real world, we have also abolished the apparent world. Nietzsche now sees the beginning of the end of philosophy's longest error. Its infatuation with the distinction between appearance and reality, and the idea of two worlds. The end of this error, Nietzsche writes, is the zenith of mankind, the highest point of all humanity. It is at this point, in an essay written 6 years after Thus Spake Zarathustra, that Nietzsche writes, Zarathustra begins. This is a key moment for Nietzsche, because when we grasp the fact that there is only one world, we suddenly see the error that had put all values beyond this world. We are then forced to reconsider all our values and even what it means to be human. And when we see through these philosophical illusions, the old idea of man can be surpassed. The Superman is Nietzsche's vision of a fundamentally life-affirming way of being. It is one that can become the bearer of meaning, not in the world beyond, but here. Superman is the meaning of the earth. Nietzsche's writings did not reach a large audience in his lifetime, so much so that he had to pay for the publication of the final part of Thus Spoke Zarathustra himself. But around 30 years after his death in 1900, the idea of the Superman fed into the rhetoric of Nazism through Hitler's readings of Nietzsche's work. Nietzsche's ideas about the Superman, and particularly his call for the eradication of the Judeo-Christian morality that held sway throughout Europe, would have been attractive to Hitler as validation for his own aims. But where Nietzsche seemed to be searching for a return to a more rustic, life-affirming values of pagan Europe, Hitler took his writings as an excuse for unbridled violence and transgression on a grand scale. The consensus among scholars is that Nietzsche himself would have been horrified by this turn of events. Writing in an era of extraordinary nationalism, patriotism, and colonial expansion, Nietzsche was one of the few thinkers to call these assumptions into question. He's just kind of being a jerk. At one point in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he makes it clear that he considers nationalism a form of alienation or failure. Only where the state ends, Zarathustra says, there begins the human being, who is not superfluous. Nietzsche's open-ended idea of human possibility was important to many philosophers in the period following World War II. His ideas about religion and the importance of self-evaluation can be traced especially in the work of succeeding existentialists, such as the French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. Like Nietzsche's Superman, Sartre says that we must each define the meaning of our own existence. Nietzsche's damning criticisms of the Western philosophical tradition have had a huge impact not only on philosophy, but also on European and world culture. And they went on to influence countless artists and writers in the 20th century. Basically, Nietzsche was like, all right, so This is the best we got? This is it? This is as close to heaven that we're going to get? You're telling me I got to live in this situation? Obviously, you're going to become a prophet of death. If this is the best we got, using the moralities of Judeo-Christianity, we could probably do better. We could probably do a little bit better. That's what he was saying. We could probably figure out, like, you know. At that point, we weren't willing to make amendments to the Bill of Rights. Like, we amended the Bill of Rights, but we can't amend the Bible. Maybe we just get rid. All right, so then if we're not allowed to amend the Bible, then maybe we just don't live by the Bible. You know, maybe we just figure out a different way to live. We're not allowed to touch that book. All right, cool. You can have your book over there. We'll put it in the. You know what? We've got libraries that are publicly funded based on, government institute. It's a government institution, publicly funded. We'll put that in the library. You can go. You can read about it. But like, maybe we live. We've been living under like government institute in the state. Like, what are we actually living under? That's what Nietzsche is struggling. What are we actually living under? Are we living under the state? Are we living under these Christian values? Are we living under, what are we living under? Are we even living? No. We're lying to ourselves. Nobody knows who you are. You can't have your own ideas. So he's just flailing about with his writing at that time, Nietzsche. All right. That last section went a little bit faster than I expected. Do we want to... Hold on a minute here. Let's read. Nietzsche was born in Prussia in 1840. Let's just read. I want to give you a little bit more about this guy. I really like this. I spent a lot of my life reading about Nietzsche. I read Zarathustra. Nietzsche was born in Prussia in 1844 to a religious family. His father, uncle, and grandfathers were all Lutheran ministers. His father and younger brother died when he was a young child. So Lutheranism, basically like Catholic slackers. That's me joking, okay? That's me. That's a joke, and all Lutherans are joke. They'd be like, you know what? You're pretty close, yeah. All right. His father and younger brother died because basically they just don't want to hold. Lutherans just don't want to hold mass that often. That's it. They hold mass like once a year instead of every Sunday. That's the difference between Lutherans and Catholics. And the idea of original sin is a little goofy too. Anyhow, at the age of 24, he became a professor at Basel University, where he met the composer Richard Wagner, who influenced him strongly until Wagner's anti-Semitism forced Nietzsche to end their friendship. In 1870, he contracted diphtheria and dysentery, and thereafter suffered continual ill health. He was forced to resign his professorship in 1879, and for the next 10 years traveled in Europe. In 1889, he collapsed in the street while attempting to prevent a horse from being whipped, and suffered some form of mental breakdown from which he never recovered. He died in 1900 at the age of 56. Lost his mind trying to stop a guy from hitting a horse. Wah! Lost his mind. I gotta go. Speaking of going, we gotta go. It's been a hell of a day. Thank you guys for hanging out, learning philosophy, diving into a pretty neat section and selection of things that we're going to be learning about. So, existentialism. If there is no God, then what? Now what? Basically, like, that's all existentialism is. It's just asking the question, well, now what? Well, okay, now what? Well, okay, well, all right, maybe, now what? Now what? It's the, now what? So, we're gonna be, whew. Alright, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here, Cleanie. Let's get out of here. Thank you guys for hanging out. Do we want to, 1 second. Let's sing a song. Okay, there we go. Let's just do it. Let's sing the song. Let's sing the song together. It's from Rent. If you know the words, 525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so clear, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter, in strife, in 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in life? How about love? How about love? How about love? Measuring love, right? Seasons of love. Alright. That's one of my favorite songs. It's so much. You gotta have like a whole group singing that song together. YouTube it and you'll get it. I really like the idea of having like so many moments in our life that are going. And then it's just about like hanging out every Monday and getting to see new people, getting to see old people, getting to see young people, getting to see old people, and getting to see my friends and getting to make new friends. And it really is just like, if there is no God, it's really not that big of a deal. I think we're alright. If there is no God, I think we're okay. That's what I think. And if there is a God, I think we're okay. That's my personal, if there is no God, I think we're okay. So, as crazy as it all gets, and it's going to get crazier, especially here in America, like, we got an election coming up in the next 2 months, and so we got, like, just a bunch of big craziness that's going to, like, come together, and just, like, realizing that, like, we're just humans, being humans, I got mouse traps set, and I don't want to kill this damn mouse, but I don't want a mouse crawling over me while I sleep. And I had to, like, think to myself that I am not going to change the relationship between humans and mice by never killing a mouse. I'm not. I'm never going to change that What I am going to change is maybe we'll keep the mice out of my house. And I don't have to worry about killing a mouse. You know what I'm saying? So I keep the door closed. That's what I got to worry about. So, if I don't want to do something, I got to figure out how to make sure that thing doesn't happen and I don't have to react to it. So, it's just, life is pretty dynamic like that. So, alright, let's get out of here. Let's do the hug. Let's give each other a hug. If you don't have, like, go find someone today and give them a hug. And if you don't give them, like, then you're wasting. I'm going to give you a hug, and then you take my hug from me. Okay? I'm going to hug. Here, let's hug. My arms. So I'm going to take the left one. I'm going to put it right around you there. Okay, so I got it right there. Don't worry, you don't have to lose any. don't worry. All right, don't lose any weight. It gives me like I promise you I can reach all around. Like right, don't. You ain't gotta worry about it. Okay. Maybe take the jacket off though. It's a little rude to like wear a winter coat while I'm trying to give you a big bear hug. I don't know, like I'm gonna reach into I'm the weirdo that reaches into the jacket to give you the hug. I'm the guy. I'm the guy that reaches into the jacket okay, I did that to a girl once and she's like, ooh. And I was like, no, you got a big jacket. I can't reach around the jacket, so I have to go into the jacket. I'm the creep, all right? I'm the one. I'm the creepy. All right, see, so I've got one arm around it there, okay? And now I've got the other arm coming around on the other side. There we go. There we go. We got, all right, now here we go. You ready? Hug! Oh, man, that's a big hug. I can feel everybody hugging me. That's weird. Hey, get your finger out of there. Knock it off. You don't do that. That's not a hug. That's assault. You knock that off. Okay? I know who you are. I know who they... No, I don't, actually. I don't know particular... It was cute. Thank you. I appreciated that. It made me feel all, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, come on, knock it off. We got other people trying to hug here. You knock that off. Unless you're, like, doing it, come on now. All right? So just, let's try it one more time. All right? Knock it off, you weirdos. All right, get your fingers in there. I'm saying, come on. All right. So you got your left arm. You just, like, right there. I know it is, Jesus Christ. We're in Australia. You get your finger out of there. All right, you got your left hand there. All right, so we're going. I'm trying to give everybody a hug, and so anybody that doesn't have a hug yet, get in on this one. All right, so we got that right arm coming in, and he's like, ah, yeah, there it is. Oh yeah, okay, woo. All right, woo. Right there, I can feel it. I can feel it right there, when you get that good hug, you walk away from a hug, you're like, oh, man, I think I keep my hugs right here. Okay, so I'm going to, throughout the day, I'm going to go give a hug, because I got a hug. You give a hug, you get a hug. It's called doing it, Laura. I'm trying to, like, walk away from, like, calling it the Laura, and I don't know, I like it, it's fine. Love you, Laura. Thanks, everybody. Let's get the hell out of here. Love you guys. 3, 2, Derek Anderson, 1. Right? And I thought that was going to be funny, and then, I don't know, I'm just going to click out of here. It's like, I'm always, like, trying to figure out different ways to make it seem interesting that I just end the show. Just end the show. All right, we're going to get out of here. Love you guys. Be safe.